Okay, should we get started, everybody?
Yay!
All right, let's do this. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. It's nice to see we have 164 attendees signed up for this seminar. My name is Katherine Cole. I'm the executive producer and host of The Four Top. It's a food and beverage podcast. I'm also a wine journalist, and I do a few other things besides that. So I believe that Spanish is the most beautiful lyrical language in the world. It's a language that lends itself naturally to poetry and music. When I think of Spanish, I think of the world's most captivating writers, from Isabel Allende to Pablo Neruda, to Gabriel Garcia Marquez, to Laura Esquivel. Terrible Spanish accent, I'm sorry. And in the wine industry, we are lucky enough to have Spanish all around us every day. We hear it spoken in our vineyards and in our cellars and our restaurant kitchens, but we don't often stop and celebrate this beautiful language and the beautiful people who are speaking it. So I am incredibly honored today to be moderating the first ever Celebrating Hispanic Roots event. Woo!
Salud!
Salud!
Woo! Salud.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers! We are here celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month with this new gathering of Oregon winemakers who come from Spanish-speaking nations and families. And we have some of our panelists' wines around. You can check them out. I've got some right here. You can see Cristina's and Sofia's and Carla's. And I'd love for you all to have the chance to enjoy these wines as much as I've been enjoying them. So please go to the Celebrating Hispanic Roots website and purchase the special wine packages that these producers are offering to benefit the Latino Partnership Program of the Oregon Community Foundation. Now, I'm sure many of you have questions in the audience, and you are welcome to enter them into the Zoom chat. And if you don't have time to answer them all, we will post answers, or sorry, if we don't have time to answer them all, we will post answers on Instagram at Celebrating Hispanic Roots. That's the Instagram feed for us, and we'll also send out the answers via email. So without further ado, let's meet these wonderful panelists we have here and get a sense of the varying backgrounds represented here. We will start with Ximena Orrego, or depending on where you're from, you might pronounce it Ximena Orrego, who co-founded Atticus Wine in Yamhill in 2005. Ximena, what are your Hispanic roots?
So I was born in Peru. Well, first of all, thank you, Catherine. It's really exciting to be here with all of you. I was born in Peru, raised primarily in Venezuela, and I also lived a few years in Panama and in Guatemala.
All right. And then how about Carla Rodriguez and her husband, George Hilbury, have co-owned the La Colina and La Sierra vineyards in the Dundee Hills since 1999 and Beacon Hill Winery and Vineyard in the Yamhill Carlton AVA since 2011. Carla, what are your Hispanic roots?
Hi, everybody. This is Carla. Thanks, Catherine, for having us. So my Hispanic roots are that I was born and raised in the northern Mexican city of Torreon, Coahuila. And a little known fact about Coahuila, it actually houses the oldest winery in the Americas in a small town in Parra. So that is the state that I am from, and born and raised there.
I've read about that winery. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to Sofia Torres McKay, who's co-owner of Cramoisi Vineyard and Winery in Dundee and co-founder of Ayvoy, a nonprofit organization providing education and career training to our Spanish-speaking vineyard laborers. Sofia, what are your Hispanic roots?
Thank you, Catherine. Very nice to be here with all these amazing people, winemakers, wine growers, and to be with all of you, all the attendants. And so yeah, so my Hispanic roots are, I grew up in Mexico City, the biggest city, beautiful food, beautiful culture, beautiful wines as well. And then my mom is a native Aztec, and my dad, he's Spanish. So we have the blend of the two Hispanic roots. So I'm very happy to be here with all of you, sharing our roots together.
Wonderful. Cristina Gonzales founded Gonzales Wine Company in 2010, and she is making wine in both Oregon and California. Cristina, what are your Hispanic roots?
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you all, and thank you, Catherine, for moderating for us. So my Hispanic roots are actually start here in the United States. I was born in LA, raised in Wisconsin, but I am the granddaughter of migrant farm workers from Texas who picked cotton and watermelons before migrating up to Wisconsin to pick cherries. So I've lived in South America for a couple of years where I actually learned Spanish because we didn't speak Spanish in the home. And then most recently, I lived in Mexico for 3 years in Chiapas, which is the most southern state in Mexico, and where my son was born.
Wonderful. So much diversity on this panel. Sam Parra has worked in the wine industry for 2 decades, and he's been sipping his wine as we've been talking, so I know he'll have something interesting to say. He just established Parra Wine Company here in the Willamette Valley in 2019. Sam, what are your Hispanic roots?
Yes, Catherine. Thank you so much for moderating Celebrating Hispanic Roots. Like Cristina and myself, I was born and raised in Napa Valley in a small town of St. Helena. My roots go back to Jalisco, Mexico. My grandparents migrated from Jalisco, seeking opportunities in the US, came directly to Napa Valley. What they know best is agriculture. My grandfather did dive in right into the wine industry on the viticulture side.
Mm-hmm. And Juan Pablo, otherwise known as JP Valot, has worked for quite a few Willamette Valley wineries. I think those of us in the industry certainly know his name well. JP is now the head winemaker for Sylvan Ridge in Eugene, and he co-founded Valcan Cellars, his own label, in 2012. JP, what are your Hispanic roots?
So I'm JP. Thank Catherine for hosting this. So I go back to Argentina. So I'm born and raised in Mendoza, which is the wine country in Argentina. And then before that, my heritage goes to Italy and France.
Oh. Wow. So it's just wonderful to see how much and hear how much geographical and cultural diversity we have here, right here in the Oregon wine industry. I can't wait to hear more. So let's get this conversation started. Ximena, let's start with you and maybe kind of begin at the beginning. What does the word Hispanic actually mean to you, and why did you decide to launch Celebrating Hispanic Roots?
Okay, well, Hispanic, if you look it up, it really refers to any one person, country, or culture that is Spanish speaking. But it encompasses, the word Hispanic encompasses everyone from Mexico down to Spanish speaking South America, Central America, Spanish speaking Caribbean to Spain. And in some circles, it also includes the Philippines. So there's this huge, it's a huge umbrella. And one of the things that I guess interested me was to bring awareness to that fact. But really one of the reasons why I really wanted to start Celebrating Hispanic Roots is, for a while, I've been wanting to get together with my peers from the industry. Some of them I already knew, some of them I really didn't. It's been amazing just from that perspective to get to know a new group of friends. But, I've been wanting to do it for a while. And then this year with the pandemic and all of the challenges that we have had, I felt it was a really good opportunity to come together, lift each other up, lift our communities, share our stories, hopefully provide a little bit of inspiration, through sharing and celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month. But also, as we talked, one of the things that was really important for me was to give back to our community, which we are doing through our partnership with the Latino Partnership Program. For all of us in this group, we think education and leadership development is really, really important to help move our communities forward. And that is one of the key things that Latino Partnership Program from the Oregon Community Foundation does. They support that. And so that was the whole purpose, to have a really positive, happy event.
Absolutely. And do you all feel like you have kind of a feel, you're from all over the place, as we've heard, but do you feel like you have kind of a special tie because you all speak the same language?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's not just the fact that we all speak Spanish, but we also share the dream of being winemakers, wine growers, and of giving back to our communities.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Sofia, I'm curious why you think it's important to represent the Spanish-speaking community in Oregon wine. Are there voices being heard?
Well, I think this is one of the examples, to be here together celebrating Hispanic roots. Thank you to Ximena that started this movement and to get us together, to get us united and to represent that there's also Latinos, Hispanic in the wine industry that make really good wine, that we support the community, we support our people. And this is just a little example, like to be here and to show what we can do for our community, but also for the rest of the Willamette Valley to emphasize our heritage and the things that we can do together. We're inclusive and diverse. We enrich our community better when we do these kind of things. And I'm so happy that Ximena took the lead to bring us together. As she said, as she mentioned, like we wanted to do this long time ago, but for one reason or the other, we're always busy with, wine making, wine selling, vineyard work, and families. I mean, so many hats that we wear in the industry that it's just sometimes it's just difficult. But this is a good example to keep doing it, because this makes us feel better when we give back to the community, to embrace ourselves, to embrace our heritage. We all have the same language, but we also share our same culture. That culture is the most important, I guess, because people can speak the language, but if you don't have the same culture, there's always a culture shock. So I'm so happy that this movement is happening right now. And thanks to all of you that we're united, and there's more people that I'm sure they're gonna join us next year. So that to me, this is my heart. This is what I want to do and keep doing.
Yeah. And do you want to tell us a little bit more about Ahivoy, those who maybe haven't heard about it? And if people want to look it up, it's AHIVOY.
Yes, so Ahivoy, it's a nonprofit organization. It's a very new organization in the Willamette Valley that is focused on uplifting and empower vineyard stewards to move forward in their career path, not only to work in the vineyard, but also to learn what happens after they let go. So I'm so proud that Sam, Parra, and Cristina, they're part of the board of Ahivoy. Without them, this idea couldn't be the way that it is right now. So we're doing lots of activities and events and things like that to, again, uplift our communities and through education. So they take a program, a one professional program at Chemeketa. We partnership with Chemeketa, and they go for 18 weeks to get, one more Sofia, one more Ximena, one more JP, one more Sam. So we want some of them to join us and to, or at least just to learn what happens in the industry after we harvest the grapes, and know and give them the tools to understand what they're doing in the vineyard, but also what happens after that. So we want to get them included, and we want to be to emphasize the diversity that we can have in the Willamette Valley. So that's just empower our vineyard stewards. Without grapes, we cannot drink wine.
It's so true.
Yeah, I also, Katherine, Carla, in one of the conversations we had, she had mentioned something that I think was really important, and is the whole fact that, because we all, come from different countries, different backgrounds, we have this heritage that we share, but we also can bring in, a new perspective to things, and that it's not just related to the wine industry, but as a whole, the more diversity you have, I think the more, richness you have. So, yeah.
So true. And I want to keep on this train of thought, but I have to stop myself and say, I think I misspoke earlier, and I asked the audience to submit questions via the chat function. I should have said the Q&A, which for my screen is kind of on the lower right there. So people are confused about how to submit questions. That's how you do it. But I want to get back to that topic we were on, because what I love about this group we have here is you all are really kind of your own bosses. You're all entrepreneurs. And I'd love to see more of this. And I'm wondering, are there enough Hispanic people, Spanish-speaking people in positions of power in Oregon Wine? Carla, I'm going to pose that question to you.
I love this question. My personal answer is not yet. I don't think there's enough yet, but I think today we're witnessing, a huge step in seeing leaders in this business and in this industry. And hopefully, if we do this again next year, there'll be more voices, more faces, more leaders. And I think, the wine industry is definitely growing. It represents a big part of the Oregon economy, the West Coast economy. And I think Hispanics have been a part of it from the very beginning. And it's important to showcase the different roles that Hispanics have played, but also showcase the leadership that Hispanics have played in this industry. And so when Ximena and I were talking early on, Ximena, I think it was back in July, and the world looked a little different back then, even though it was only July. We were talking about it, and I shared with her what really interested me and what was really something of passion to me is to showcase the fact that, yes, we all speak the same language, which is fantastic. A lot of us share the same roots coming from the same either country or overall region, but we're all small business owners, right? And I think that ties us together. And I think the Hispanic culture has a very entrepreneurial leaning. A lot of us are used to kind of doing things on our own. We come from countries where you rely on your family to move ahead. And I think that there's something kind of innate in that about being entrepreneurs, about being your own boss and charting your own kind of course and destiny. And so that was really important to me because not only is it a great industry and we make great products, but at the end of the day, you're running a business, right? And this country is full of small businesses that help this engine go. And I don't need to remind everybody of where we are today with the economy and how small businesses are suffering. So it was extra important for me to highlight the fact that, hey, we're coming together, we're uniting, we're helping grow the country and grow the industry in Oregon through our small businesses, provide employment. I myself, right, through Beacon Hill and through some vineyard management services that we have, we employ folks, and it's important for us to keep that going and ultimately, expand the narrative of our culture to one that shows leadership as well. And business ownership. So that is really important. So the question is, the answer to the question is, I don't think we have enough yet, but I know we'll have more next year for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things, Katherine, that we started iVoy along with Miguel Lopez and Jesus Guillen, Sampara. JP came for some meetings as well, and Cristina. So it's something really new that is gonna make, this movement to get more people, because as Carla says, there's not enough. And we have lots of Hispanic people working. They're all in the vineyards. So it's a really diverse community, but it's very divided still. So in terms of who fills those positions in power that you were saying before. And I'm not saying power in a bad way. I'm just saying to grow. Like since I was little, I always wanted to get more and more and more. And education to me is key for that. So that's why these programs that we're supporting, the Latino program that gives scholarships, or iVoy as a co-founder, because education is the best tool you can give them, to understand what they can do with their lives, to have a purpose. Purpose is very important. When you give knowledge and a purpose to somebody, then the dreams come true with hard work. Our Latinos, Hispanic people that work in the vineyards, they need to have that purpose. They need to have our support. We started, we didn't start making wine. So we started learning and with education, so I think, as Carla says, we're not enough, but I'm sure we're going to get there. Next year, we're going to be more raising our glass here.
It can only improve the wine industry. And I feel like we're having a national conversation right now about who is in power here and how much better would the world be if if we had a more diverse sort of representation of our society in power. And I think that's certainly true with wine. Sam, I'm going to turn to you. How does it just feel for you to be someone who is an entrepreneur and a leader in Oregon wine as a Hispanic American? Do you feel like you see and hear the industry kind of differently in a way that others don't?
I feel that I do. You know, I project the ambitions, the goals, and the examples that my grandparents set for, definitely for my generation, for the grandchildren when they migrated to the U.S. to pursue a better future for themselves in general. I was born and raised in a Spanish-speaking family and community as well. In Napa Valley, many individuals, and I'm speaking of Caucasian peers, are bilingual in general. So again, just my grandparents' sacrifices really paved the way for my generation. And now I really feel it's my duty, it truly is my responsibility to just help others out here in Oregon. And that's why I'm so dedicated to Aivoy as well. It's a great mission that we have, again, as a nonprofit, and how Sofia stated, it's a matter of education, where just to show our vineyard stewards what Ximena offers in classes, where they can transfer out to Oregon State University, for example, or if they want to pursue to start their own vineyard management company, that's a great thing that in Salem, there's a Ximena Small Business Development Center. So it's more, again, to provide mentorship and to reach out to our Latino peers and guide them in general. So anyways, that's why I'm, again, really excited to be part of celebrating Hispanic roots.
Yeah. Well, Cristina, Sam mentioned his roots back in the Napa Valley down in California. You work in the wine, well, you still make California wine, correct? And I'm curious to hear, what have you observed?
Moved all of my production up to Oregon this year because of COVID and the fires and homeschooling, because I'm a single mom and I have a 6-year-old who might be making an appearance at one point in time. So yeah, now everything has actually been moved up to Oregon.
Oh, I was going to ask you, as a Hispanic woman in the industry, what have you kind of observed in California and Oregon? How would you compare and contrast the winemaking cultures?
So I think a lot of it for me, I mean, and these are all based on my own personal experiences, but, you know, I think a lot of it comes down to history and the longevity of the industries in both states. We see in California, sorry, there's a plane going overhead if you can hear that. So there, you know, in California has a very long history of winemaking, where, you know, in Oregon, you know, industry started in the 1960s. So I think, you know, within California, we see a large Latino group where, again, like Sam said, you know, many of the Caucasian coworkers and individuals are speaking Spanish. And so I think, like, as far as Latinos and positions of upper management and winemaking is seen a lot more than we see here in Oregon. But the thing with here in Oregon is that I've experienced myself being a woman and a woman entrepreneur and a small business owner, is how much more accepted the roles of women in leadership are here. So, you know, whereas in California, we see more visible Latinos in positions of power, here we definitely see more women. Whereas, you know, we see a lot of Latinos that are up here, but we do see a lot of them more in the vineyard. And, you know, in my case, I was the bottling line manager for about 3 years, and we see a lot of Latinos also on the bottling line. And so part of this movement is, and also part of the mission of Aivoy, is to empower and hopefully inspire our Latino and our Hispanic community, if they can see what we are doing right now as individuals, men and women, but also small business owners and entrepreneurs, that, you know, we're doing it. We're out here, we're selling wine, you know, we're making wine. All of us are in harvest right now. That inspires and empowers, you know, people and communities to, you know, forge their own path and know that it's not out of reach. And, you know, education and scholarships, funding, like all of those things, they're available. There are resources. It's just about making that visible, letting people know, letting the Latino community know that there are resources available to them.
Mm-hmm. JP, we've mentioned the vineyard labor force quite a few times during this conversation, and it strikes me that this is a community that it's probably the majority of people working in Oregon wine, and they kind of lack a voice, for lack of a better way of saying it. And you have been working in Oregon vineyards for years. I'm curious what you're hearing from them now, the vineyard laborers or vineyard stewards, as Ivoy likes to refer to them, especially this year, this really terrifying year where we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with smoke. It's really, there are a lot of unknowns. So what are you hearing, JP?
Well, I guess I will pop the bubble and then give the bad news right now. Unfortunately, if we go back to the beginning of the year, all the projection that we have on the winery side and the vineyard side changed really bad into March, April, the beginning of the pandemic. And unfortunately, that's been affecting the Latino community in general in many different aspects, unfortunately, all bad aspects. What we're facing beside it, so we started with the pandemic, and see it like in a small community like the Latino one, getting higher percentage of COVID issues. And this is because most of our field workers are Latinos and they are in more essential worker positions. And so they're more exposed to the pandemic, the virus. And so that's been one of the major things that actually bringing down, unfortunately, the business model and also the projection, and also at the personal level too, because we're dealing with the virus, which really contagious. So if you get at work, you bring it home, and the whole thing is a mess. Unfortunately, when we figured out ways to try to avoid contagious, we end up with the fires. And the smoke, and so there will be there's another downturn in terms of labor, because during the harvest you have the pickers, and they actually can make really good money during picking different vineyards. And unfortunately, the fires and the smoke is bringing down to the point that there will be some vineyards that won't be picked. So. And on top of that, we also facing lower yields, which is the kind of the perfect storm for our workers and the wineries and the industry as a whole. I would like to say something more positive, but it's just want to be realistic. So we're in a bad situation now. We'll get better. We'll make our best on making the best wines out of this vintage, but it's a big challenge, especially for the Latino community in general. So next question.
No. So can I comment?
Yeah.
Can I comment? Yeah. So JP's all about doom and gloom. And I know that we are
I got too much wine.
Lots...
I can't lie.
I agree that like this year is like, what else comes next, right? We've had so many challenges, and I think all of us as business owners, we own a vineyard as well. I mean, everyone has tried to make the best possible decisions to take care of our people. Every business is different, and everyone is responding to these challenges in a different way. I do agree that for our Spanish-speaking community, this has probably hit them in a harder way. And many of them don't necessarily have a choice but to go out in conditions that are not necessarily the best. But I think everyone, I want to think positive. And I think that out of challenges, we get stronger. And again, I think a lot of us have shown that we really care about the people who are working out there and helping us, make the most wonderful wine by ensuring that we have great fruit. And then for those people who are lucky enough that maybe the smoke did not affect us as much, we are committed to making the best possible wine that we will, that we can. So yeah, I just want to bring a little bit more of a positive note to the question, because we're all small businesses, all dealing with it in different ways, the best way that we can.
Also, can I comment something? I want to see that this celebration of Hispanic roots is bringing not only the Hispanic people together, but also after you harvest the grapes, you have to take them to the winery. And the people in the winery, they're having a tough time as well, not just COVID, but also to deal with lots of fermentation tests to make sure the grapes have the highest quality to make wine, because some people don't have crop insurance. So also I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the people that are working in the wineries. So once we let go the grapes and all these Hispanic people, all our people are helping, now is the time to embrace and to recognize the work that all the winemakers are doing right now, because they have to wear masks too. They have to, but what I'm happy about this celebration is that people are getting emails sometimes to say, what a nice celebration you guys are doing. Yeah. Who is helping you with this? And then at the end of the emails, they said, gracias. So they're trying also to speak Spanish, even that they don't speak Spanish, but they're trying to drop some words in Spanish when they see me on the street or somewhere. Like, hola, Sofia, I know they don't speak Spanish, but they're trying to be part of this. And I'm so proud, I'm so happy that this thing that Ximena started, is bringing people together, not just our Hispanic and Latinos, but also the industry. I'm very excited to these celebrations. So they're trying to help us and to celebrate with us in some way all this month, and trying to encourage. There's so many organizations, not only that they're helping Hispanic people, but also that they only speak English, that how can we help you to celebrate this with you? And I think this is bigger than this is my own opinion, and I guess the rest agree with this. This is bigger than we were expecting when we started. So it's a very positive, and I'm glad this happened this year, because this year is being a mess. And this is something very positive and something that people are looking forward to, and not being down all the time, and just worry all the time. And I have issues with my jaw just because I'm being very stressed. And my dentist told me, you don't have anything bad with your teeth, you just grinding your teeth at night because you're so stressed. So this makes me happy.
Just drink wine before going to bed.
There you go. Hey, I was going to comment as well. So I totally agree that with Sofia that, in a way it was great that we did it this year, because despite the challenges of 2020, and we can list them over and over, it's something to look forward to, right? It was something I was personally really excited that October 1st came so we could get together and share. And back to JP's point, I think it's okay to say, hey, these things are not going great in the winery. These things aren't going great in the vineyard. But I think the second point is, hey, what are we learning, right? This is going to teach us so much going forward, because I guarantee you we're going to have other challenging harvests going forward. And if you talk to those that have been in the industry for many years, like, Mike Etzel from Beaufrères, who's, one of our neighbors in Beacon Hill, he's been at this for 30 years. And he's like, it's another year of harvest, right? And yeah, it's going to bring its challenges, but I think we should also kind of, Ximena, to your quote of welcoming this harvest with open arms, what are we learning? And we're going to look back on this harvest for many years. And JP, I'm sure you've got a list of things of, hey, what are we learning? What are the tricks we're doing in the winery and in the vineyard? And how do we educate everybody on dealing with this? And there's so many unknowns. It's the perfect business case that's being played out in front of us, right? And so I think despite it being a tough year, this is a perfect time to come together, share what we've learned so far, because this is going to carry us forward. And hopefully we don't have a 2020 again, but something tells me that there will be challenges going forward. And now we've got a community that we're strengthening, right?
Well, maybe I look like the one who brought the vineyard, but it's true. And I'm not saying that will be that we're going down and we're the Titanic. I'm just saying that the question of how the vineyard workers are dealing with this, and the reality is they're trying to survive. And that's what the question wasn't. We think we'll survive. Yes, we will survive. And I'm really happy that we put together this group and we can actually support them too. I mean, that was an easy question. It's during a celebration that we have in a pandemic. I mean, there will be good things and bad things. So I'm happy that we can celebrate, yes. But I'm also unhappy that there's many people suffering out there. Yeah. And on top of that, I didn't mention, but I also homeschooling, which is, unfortunately, we just figured out that school also are the babysitters, and you need them to have the kids at school so we can go to work. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I love this industry. I love what we're doing. I love what we've done so far, where we are at right now. But the truth of the industry right now is a challenge, and it's a challenge for everyone. I always say that if you can make it through this year, it's going to be a really bright 2021.
We'll see what happens in 2021.
If it's in 2021, you mean?
JP is the realist of the group.
But we're getting stronger. You know, we're stronger right now. So
well, that's in case you make you stronger.
Struggle makes you stronger.
That's exactly.
So, Catherine?
Absolutely.
Let's get a little more upbeat here, because I'm getting some really lovely questions from the audience that I think will cheer us all up. So, JP, so we have a question. We have a question from Victor Polanco. He says, tell us how your Hispanic heritage has influenced your winemaking. For example, JP, you're from Mendoza, Argentina, and we were just talking about your Malbec. So he wants to know, do you have a bent for Malbec or other grapes from your homeland? So tell us about your Malbec and whether you think about your homeland.
Just to be realistic, I grew up in Mendoza. My whole family has been immersed in the industry. My dad is still a wine broker. On my mom's side, they were Italian and they work in the winery. And then on my dad's side, they were French, and they end up in the vineyard side. So kind of, I grew up with both sides of the industry. I went to college, and as soon as I graduated, I came up here. So basically, I was working back and forth for 3 years, and I was getting a little bit, I was just going crazy since 2 vintage or 2 harvests per year is a little complicated. It's just too rough on the body. But I took what I got from down there and I brought it up here, but I formed myself as a professional up here in Oreo. The idea about Malbec has always been my baby, since that's my connection with Argentina, with Mendoza. And I just talking with my dad all the time. I said I'm making Malbec, it's making him happy too. The idea with the wine Malbec was just something new that happened last year, and it's a brand new wine.
Yes. Say, you were speaking very quickly. I'm not sure everyone heard what you just said. You said, white.
You need captions.
White Malbec, right?
Yeah, white Malbec, yeah.
Everyone hear that? Okay, just keep going.
Okay, so the idea of the white Malbec, normally you have a red Malbec. You never had to have the idea you call it white or red or pink or rosé, because always Malbec is being red. So the idea of the white Malbec came last year when I got the opportunity to get some Malbec. They were lower bricks that would turn into lower alcohol wine with the dry acidity, and it was perfect for the rosé. And then we made it in a white way, and I tried. I wasn't sure about it. I mean, it's something one of the more challenging wine for myself, and especially because the first one to try the white Malbec was my wife, and she didn't like it. And it was kind of like, oh gosh, okay. And she's my partner, is probably also my boss at some point too. And then he said, well, you don't like it? I say, I don't know, it looked weird to me. And I explained what it was and everything. So for 3 months, I show it in their tasting room, given for free as a taste to consumers without telling them what it was, and everyone loved it, and everyone's so excited about it. But I still had that face from my wife saying, I like it. And then, well, the story was something that she actually really loved right now. And I'm really happy because what consumer want from us is new things all the time. I mean, they love every vintage because every vintage has its own charm. And especially this 2020 will have its own charm at all. So it's just the whole thing. When I pop a bottle from 2020, will be so many memories that won't even believe. But what the consumer wants is something new all the time. I mean, just we're living in this society of fast forward. Like you just go at a high speed, high pace, and they want new things all the time. They want something for Instagram. They want something for Facebook. So that was always an idea. And since my brand is my lab, I can try whatever I want. And that's something that I was in my brain all the time, say, I want to try. And guess what? So I tried it and I liked it and we keep doing it.
Brilliant. And is anyone else making, vinifying a grape variety that they remember from childhood, from Latin America? No?
Cristina, you are Cristina.
I've been making Malbec, and I've always made Malbec since I started my own company, and that was due to my time living in Argentina and in Chile, because I would have to cross the border to renew my tourist visa, and the closest place was Mendoza. And yeah, I might have seen you, JP, 20 years ago.
Gracias.
But so the reason that I make Malbec is because this is the grape that made me fall in love with wine. And so every year I make a Malbec as a homage to where I fell in love with wine and what started that passion. And a lot of that was, Malbec and a steak, because in Argentina it's they're known for their grass-fed beef, and so that is what did it for me. It was the ambiance of being in the parrilla and the music and just the wine on the table and smelling the meat, like all of those things, and people laughing around you and those memories. And so that's what really started it and has been an inspiration, and the main reason that I make Malbec every year. Plus I love to drink Malbec on a regular basis. So
I love that image. Well, I have another great question. This is from Gerardo Ochoa. Big lover of wine here. Thank you for your artistry in your winemaking. Wine drinking is newish within my Latinx circle. I'm curious to hear about your approach to get more Latin people to enjoy your wines. Maybe Sam can answer this.
Yeah, of course. I happen to have 70% of my clients be Latino right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was very lucky moving into the area and actually coordinated with Voy. In the past, I would attend Hispanic pros in Portland and the Latino Business Alliance Association in Salem, and trying to find sponsorships for Voy. So it was more through networking that I met a lot of Latinos that were out wine tasting. And in Salem, their options were Cubanismo and Korea State. But again, to find somebody this small, where the owner is doing a doorside delivery, or meeting you at the nearest shopping center by, and actually with Gerardo Ochoa, I delivered wine to him in Beaverton. If it's the same Gerardo Ochoa that's asking that question. So no, I've had a great success with Latino clients where they may not be big wine aficionados, but they want to support a Latino-owned business.
Yeah, I mean, there's always room in the Oregon wine industry for more winemakers, because we still haven't tapped all the wine drinkers out there, all the future wine.
I think there's a big potential to grow that market. There's some Hispanic people that they're in the area that they said, oh no, we'd rather tequila or a beer. But once they start coming to tasting rooms, and we have campaigns about bringing our people here, Of course, they might don't buy too much wine because they don't, you know, maybe they're not like bigger appreciating of wine, but there's some that they are, you know, and there's like a big market that is waiting for us here in the Willamette Valley or anywhere, that if we welcome, you know, the Hispanic people in our tasting rooms, in our events and everything, I think this is going to increase and it's going to bring more Hispanic people in our tasting rooms. So it's another market that sometimes we just haven't paid attention to it in the Willamette Valley, but with these type of campaigns and celebrations, more people are going to feel more comfortable to come and enjoy a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to add, sorry.
I think it's what we also have to bring out. We're talking about what we make is also a luxury item. And probably one of the issues that I have since I came here is the Pinot Noir is really, it's not one of the most affordable wine that you can find. And nothing against anyone, it's just the reality.
Tequila's expensive too.
What's that?
Tequila is expensive as well, and we drink tequila.
Well, I'm not comparing beverage. I'm just saying that what I like about some different alternatives, and I'll bring back to the Malbec side, is there's some other ones that are more affordable too. So we also have to work in the market with different options, and this is what my brand is. I just want to bring more options to people. I feel like one of the hardest questions for me when I started my own brand, it was what I want to go with it, what I want to achieve with my brand, who's going to be drinking my brand, and I say I just want everyone to drink my brand, everyone. Right. I don't want my brand to be the barrier or be the price barrier. I know the thing costs money, and I get that. Grapes cost a fortune, because also you got a lot of people working in the vineyard and they deserve a salary and the difference to get paid for. But also at the same time, the reality is that we also, every time that the economy goes down, we are also affected too, because people have to take care of their wallet and they look how they want to spend. I mean, people want to drink alcohol, that's the reality, but they always choose what they want to drink.
Carla, you were going to...
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, JP, I didn't mean to cut you off. No. I was going to just comment on two things to answer the question that was asked, right? One of the things that we've done from a Beacon Hill perspective, and I think, Ximena, I saw an Instagram photo, and I think we talked about this briefly, to answer the question on what are we doing to, make it a more welcoming environment for Hispanics to come and try wine. The one thing I was going to say is we've actually have a vineyard crew that fluctuates anywhere from like 10 to 30 people, depending on the time of year. And we have had wine tasting, afternoons with them, mainly to say, hey, here's what your hard effort has resulted in, right? And it's interesting because the natural tendency for a lot of our vineyard workers is just get me the tequila, get me the beer, I'm cool with it. And so we've done this a few times where we're like, hey, just try it, right? Have an understanding of what's literally the fruits of your efforts. And so they've tried the Pinot, and then we point out which particular vineyard it's from. In our case, we have vineyards in the Dundee Hills, we have vineyards in the Yamhill Carlton AVA, and we also kind of hone in on these particular blocks, and it lights them up, right? They're like, oh yes, that block, and they have such great memories of particular parts of the vineyard that are challenging because they're more shady or they get more sun or depending on the exposure. And so for me, I learned more from them versus, what they probably got from tasting. What I also found is we have Riesling, Chardonnay, as well as Pinot. And a lot of folks that we've tasted in the vineyard side, our vineyard workers, were lovers of the Riesling. And so you start to find out a little bit about the appreciation of the palate. And then one thing that we did to expand the varietals and kind of have something that appeals to more folks was to bring in an Albarino. And so even though Albarino was not something that I grew up with in Mexico, it is a Portuguese and Spanish varietal. And, I was kind of getting swept up in the story that Cristina was telling about the Malbec and the steak and the music and the laughter. we had a similar experience where we were actually at a Latin American restaurant in Portland, and my husband and I ordered an Albarino on the wine list, and we fell in love. And we did a little bit of research, and we realized that that's actually a varietal that can do really well in Portland because it's similar climate, similar temperature, and we decided to go for it. So we went down to Abasela in Southern Oregon, got the clippings, planted it. 3 years later, we have our first offering of Albarino, which is the 2019, which is part of the trio that's being offered. And so it's funny how it gives you a story, right? And it gives you an offering of something different in the white category.
Ooh,
So I just wanted to share that.
Yum.
Yeah, also one of the things I just want to comment is that that's wonderful, Carla, that you do that with your crews, because that's one of the things that I'm always trying to motivate in the industry, to get their crews together and teach them about the grapes that they grow and give them a wine and a taste. And one of the program that they go and learn, they teach them wine tasting, so that we take them to different wine tastings and tasting rooms, and they get a taste. And I've been having more Latino, Hispanic people in my tasting room, even with COVID and even with this situation, and they purchase wine because they want to support and they want to learn. And so, so that's part of the program as well, to teach them wine appreciation. And two of the students, they're my customers. So, I mean, it's just like wonderful. And then
it's a circle, right?
Yeah, it's a circle. And then they go back to their friends, and then their friends, they make an appointment. And that's kind of what is going to work. So we said, this is also for you. It's not just the tequila or the beer, it's also the wine. And yeah, I agree with JP that the prices, they have to be, we have to think about more affordability, for wines, to bring more wines in the market for different markets. But when you like something and you want something and you really appreciate something, you buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Carla, I loved your point earlier too. I mean, I feel like every winery and vineyard owner in Oregon should be serving their own wine to the folks who are harvesting and working those vines. And the fact that not only did it help your workers appreciate what they were doing more, but you actually learned more about the vineyard and about expressing that terroir from the people who are really right there every day. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, they know the vineyard better than us, quite frankly, right? They're out there grinding it out 365 days a year. And so it was a great lesson for me, right? So it was a dual learning.
Well, let me ask another question here. I have a question from Kathy Hoya. I'm learning so much. I would like to ask the panelists, in the course of their own histories and life experiences with wine, where have they seen the needle move, and where do they want to see the needle move in the near future? Ximena, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Well, where have I seen the needle move? I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that, if, from a personal business perspective or more like a wider. I mean, I can speak for our own business. We're a small family business. We produce 500 cases of wine a year. We only do private seated tastings, which we do both in English and in Spanish. We offer them in Spanish as well. And I think that, for us, it's all about just telling our story. We live this every day. We are in the vineyard. I think for me, moving the needle is just being genuine. It's your story. I like to think that through our wines, we tell a story as well. So just, when we first started the business, our business model was more following perhaps a cookie cutter approach to what we were told was what we should do from a wine business perspective, right? And so we were moving along towards that goal, but it didn't feel right for so many reasons. I mean, we had small children, and we both had day jobs, and it was crazy. And, it was not being fun. And my husband and I, we looked at each other and we were, you know, we had several conversations of, we always said that this was going to be our life journey. It needs to be fun. We need to, you know, it needs to bring us happiness. And I think that was the turning point, is, you know, understanding that for us, our sweet spot is staying small, having this model in which we can have an intimate approach and really get to know people, get to know our customers, and share our wines and our stories in that fashion. So I hope that answers the question, but it's about being genuine to yourself about, yeah, about what works for you and being able to share that with others.
And do you all
Ximena,
oh, go ahead, Carla.
I'm sorry. I so relate with it's got to be fun, right? Because for us as well, we're going into our 10th year of owning Beacon Hill, and it can be really tough, right? Anybody who's owned a small business, it's a big risk. And there's many years where it's tough, especially when you're raising a family, and, you know, some of us work a day job on top of it. So it really resonated that it is a labor of passion, and you have to enjoy this business, right? Because at the end of the day, the product we're putting out there is hopefully also bringing joy to people. And that's the part that I've enjoyed, right? And so hopefully that now more than ever, we got to insert some joy out into the world. And so hopefully a bottle of wine brings that to a lot of folks. Sorry, Catherine, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I'm sorry, JP, you were going to say something.
Yeah, going back to that, I think it's not impossible to do it, but it's complicated. It's a tough market, it's a tough business, it's a lot of competition, and you need a lot of capital for doing it. So when you mentioned that we started Valcan Cellars back in 2012, we actually started that company back in that time, but we didn't release anything until 2018. So, because you need capital. So unless you want to get in a loan, otherwise you have to roll and roll and roll. And like Carla was saying, that many of us, if not everyone, has a full-time job in order to support our business right here. So, and it's always go back to what people say. It's all about passion, because it's also low margin business too. So it's, at the end, we get you going, is the passion for what you do. I mean, I can't call it myself a job when I enjoy so much what I do. So that's why I'm so careful for what I make, because this is what I want to do until I die. And this is the legacy that I want to give it to my kids. I'm really small right now, but I want them to do what I do, because it's a great thing. I mean, it's just a thing that we can help, we can enjoy, we can celebrate. I mean, most of the celebration goes with a bottle of wine. So.
Well, Catherine?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
May I talk a little bit about the needle as an example, maybe?
Yeah.
So being in the business for 20 years and seeing more in California, the box wine, and also my very first travels in Europe in 2002, I saw for the first time wine in a pouch. But I feel that in the needle right now in the industry, you have a lot of young consumers, and you have many Oregon wine companies thriving with canned goods. And I've also seen, and you're also starting to see some wine in almost beer bottles, which I feel it's great for young consumers that start out with something in a can or a bottle. Just as an example, in California, how White Zinfandel was accidentally made by this employee in Sutter Home that dumped a lot of Chardonnay into Zinfandel, and here you have a sweet pink creation that eventually Behringer followed and copied, where the White Zinfandel exploded. And guess what? A lot of folks started out with White Zinfandel or Boone's Farm, and eventually moved on to more, well, you know, there's the wine out there for everybody. Eventually, they started out with one specific category of a wine, and then they evolved into either whites or reds. But again, that was just my example of the needle right now, how there are a lot of young consumers. So it's great to see a lot of products out there. I have, for myself, have not tried much of the can or the wine out of a beer bottle. If I'm consuming something from a beer bottle, it's going to be a beer.
But affordable entry-level ways to access great Oregon wine, for sure.
Great, yeah.
We are almost out of time, folks. Cristina, we haven't heard from you for a while. I'll throw you the last question. Actually, I might squeeze one more in. after that. But Cristina, this is a proud moment for the Latino communities of Oregon, says Anthony Veliz. Gracias, gracias for what you do. Do you see any trends for Latinos as consumers?
Yes, actually, I think there's going to be a lot of new trends. And I think part of that, it has to do with us, like this group right here, Latino winemakers, being able to share that language, to be bilingual, to make that connection. I think that is going to bring in a lot more of the Latino community into drinking wine. Is they're able to make that connection with someone that speaks their language. They're not ostracized or made to feel uncomfortable because they speak English with an accent or they don't speak English at all. And, you know, part of that too, pricing, like JP said, and that has been a big part of my business, has been trying to keep my wines affordable and accessible to everybody who walks into a wine shop or walks into a store, and especially for our Latino community who can identify with Gonzales Wine Company and be like, oh, I want to try that, and I can afford that. And so I think by us having this event, by letting people know that we are here, we've been doing this for a long time, we speak Spanish, and we have wine companies, and there is wine available for people to try. So I think we're going to see a lot more of our Latino community in tasting rooms and more excited about wine because they know that they can make that connection with somebody there.
That is a great place to end. We're just a little bit over 5 o'clock. But I do want to add Sergio Zepeda's question. He wants to know, can we visit your wineries and or tasting rooms? So everyone, if people go to your websites, can they make an appointment to taste with you?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
In Spanish or English, whatever language you prefer.
Spanish and English, tours Spanish and English, yeah.
So so everyone go to celebratinghispanicroots.com to find out more about the organization, to purchase the wine packages that will benefit the cause. And thank you everyone. Thank you Ximena Orrego, thank you Sofia Torres McKay, thank you JP Valot, Sam Parra, Carla Rodriguez, and Cristina Gonzales. Salud.
Salud. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And thank you everyone for joining.
That was
Take
really
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll answer, there are a couple more questions here, so we will answer them via social media or email.